The moment millions of Americans have been waiting for has finally arrived, and what I'm about to share with you could fundamentally transform your financial future if you're receiving Social Security benefits. Right now, across the entire nation, there's a massive shift happening in how Social Security recipients are being compensated, and the numbers are staggering. We are talking about a permanent $500 monthly increase that could be landing in the accounts of Social Security beneficiaries. And this isn't some temporary measure or one-time payment that disappears after a few months. This is a structural change that could redefine retirement security for millions of people who have worked their entire lives and deserve financial stability in their golden years. Let me be completely transparent with you because there's so much misinformation floating around on the internet, and I want to cut through all the noise and give you the real facts. Social Security has been the backbone of retirement planning for generations of Americans. But let's be honest, the current payment amounts haven't kept pace with the actual cost of living that retirees are facing every single day. When you look at the rising costs of healthcare, prescription medications, housing, utilities, and basic groceries, the gap between what people receive and what they actually need has been growing wider and wider. This gap has created enormous financial pressure on seniors and disabled individuals who rely on these benefits as their primary or sole source of income. Now, here's where things get really interesting and why this announcement is sending shockwaves through retirement communities nationwide. The legislative wheels have been turning behind the scenes, and what's emerged is a proposal that goes far beyond the standard cost of living adjustments we've seen in previous years. We are talking about a fundamental restructuring of how benefit amounts are calculated, and the implications are massive. Imagine what an extra $500 every single month would mean for your household budget. That's $6,000 annually, which could cover your entire year's worth of utility bills, help pay down medical expenses, allow you to finally afford those medications you've been rationing, or even give you the financial breathing room to actually enjoy your retirement instead of constantly worrying about making ends meet. The backstory of how we got here is absolutely crucial to understanding why this is happening now. For decades, advocacy groups, senior organizations, and everyday Americans have been sounding the alarm about the inadequacy of Social Security benefits. Politicians have promised reforms, committees have been formed, studies have been conducted, but real, meaningful change has been frustratingly slow. The pressure from constituents became impossible to ignore, and suddenly what seemed like an impossible dream started becoming a realistic possibility. What makes this proposal different from all the empty promises we've heard before is the specific mechanism being used to fund these increases. Instead of relying on future generations to shoulder an impossible burden or cutting benefits in other areas, the funding structure involves a combination of closing tax loopholes that have allowed ultra-wealthy individuals and corporations to avoid paying their fair share into the Social Security system, along with adjusting the income cap on Social Security taxes so that high earners contribute proportionally to what middle-class workers have been paying all along. This approach has gained bipartisan support because it doesn't require massive new taxes on ordinary Americans while ensuring the long-term sustainability of the program. The timeline for implementation is another critical piece of information that everyone needs to understand because knowing when to expect these changes can help you plan accordingly. According to the latest information from legislative sources, the proposal is moving through various committee stages right now, and if it maintains its current momentum, we could see final votes happening within the next several months. Once passed, the implementation phase would begin relatively quickly because the Social Security Administration already has the infrastructure in place to process benefit adjustments. The goal is to have these increased payments flowing to recipients' accounts within 90 to 120 days after final approval, which means we could potentially see these life-changing increases hitting bank accounts before the end of the current fiscal year. Now, I know what many of you are thinking because I've seen the comments and received the messages. You're wondering if this applies to you specifically, whether there are eligibility requirements, income limitations, or other restrictions that might exclude certain groups of beneficiaries. This is where the proposal truly shines in its inclusive approach. Unlike some previous benefit enhancements that were means-tested or limited to specific categories of recipients, This $500 monthly boost is designed to benefit all Social Security recipients across the board, including retirement benefits, disability benefits, and survivor benefits. The philosophy behind this universal approach is that everyone who paid into the system throughout their working years deserves adequate compensation that reflects the true cost of living, regardless of whether they have additional income sources. The technical details of how this will actually work in practice are fascinating and worth understanding because knowledge is power when it comes to your financial future. When the Social Security Administration begins processing these enhanced payments, they won't require beneficiaries to submit applications, fill out additional paperwork, or jump through bureaucratic hoops to receive what they're entitled to. The system is being designed for automatic implementation, meaning that if you're currently receiving Social Security benefits of any kind, the increased amount will simply appear in your monthly payment without any action required on your part. This streamlined approach eliminates the confusion and delays that have plagued previous benefit adjustments and ensures that the people who need this money most aren't left waiting or struggling with complicated administrative processes that can be particularly challenging for elderly or disabled individuals. The economic ripple effects of putting an extra $6,000 annually into the hands of millions of Social Security recipients cannot be overstated. And this is something that economists and financial analysts are watching very closely. When you inject this kind of purchasing power into communities across America, the benefits extend far beyond individual recipients. Local businesses see increased revenue because seniors have more disposable income to spend at restaurants, shops, and service providers. Healthcare facilities benefit because patients can actually afford their treatments and medications instead of skipping doses or delaying necessary care. Housing stability improves because more people can cover their rent or mortgage payments without falling behind. Grandparents can help their grandchildren with education expenses or provide support during family emergencies. The multiplier effect of this investment in Social Security recipients strengthens entire communities and contributes to overall economic growth in ways that benefit everyone, not just those receiving the direct payments. However, we need to address the elephant in the room because I promised you complete transparency, and that means discussing the challenges and opposition this proposal faces. Not everyone in Washington is on board with this plan, and understanding the political landscape is essential for realistic expectations. Some lawmakers argue that increasing Social Security benefits by this magnitude creates long-term fiscal concerns and prefer more modest adjustments phased in over many years. Others question whether the proposed funding mechanisms are sufficient or if they might have unintended economic consequences. There are also ideological divisions about the proper role of government in retirement security, with some politicians favoring private savings accounts and market-based solutions over enhanced public benefits. These opposing viewpoints mean that the path to final passage isn't guaranteed, and advocacy from ordinary citizens who will be affected by these decisions becomes absolutely critical in determining the outcome. This is precisely why awareness matters so much right now, at this exact moment in time. When constituents contact their representatives, share their personal stories about struggling to survive on inadequate Social Security payments, and make their voices heard through calls, emails, and town hall meetings, it creates political pressure that can move the needle on legislation that might otherwise stall in committee or get watered down through endless compromises. The power dynamics in Congress respond to public engagement, especially when elections are approaching and lawmakers need to demonstrate that they're fighting for the interests of their constituents. Your story matters, your struggle matters, and your voice can make a tangible difference in whether this proposal becomes reality or joins the long list of promised reforms that never materialized. Let's talk about what you should be doing right now to prepare for these potential changes and protect your interests. First and foremost, make sure your contact information is up to date with the Social Security Administration, because if there are delays or issues with implementing the new payment amounts, you want to ensure you can be reached quickly for any verification or problem resolution. Check that your direct deposit information is current and accurate so there are no interruptions in receiving your benefits. Keep detailed records of your current benefit amounts and payment dates so you can easily verify when the increases take effect and confirm you're receiving the correct amount. Stay informed through official channels rather than relying solely on social media or unofficial sources that might spread inaccurate information or scams designed to prey on seniors hoping for financial relief. Speaking of scams, this is unfortunately an area where we need to exercise extreme caution, because whenever there's news about increased government benefits, criminals and con artists crawl out of the woodwork trying to exploit vulnerable people. You need to know that the Social Security Administration will never call you demanding immediate payment, asking for your Social Security number over the phone, or threatening arrest if you don't provide personal information. They will never ask you to pay a fee to receive increased benefits, and they will never request payment in gift cards, cryptocurrency, or wire transfers. If someone contacts you claiming to be from Social Security and exhibits any of these red flag behaviors, hang up immediately and report the incident. Legitimate information about benefit increases will come through official mail, the Social Security Administration website, or when you initiate contact by calling the official Social Security phone number yourself. Protecting yourself from fraud is just as important as staying informed about legitimate benefit enhancements. The psychological and emotional impact of financial security for retirees extends into every aspect of life in ways that people who haven't experienced benefit inadequacy might not fully appreciate. When you're constantly stressed about money, constantly calculating whether you can afford your medications this month, constantly worried about unexpected expenses that could devastate your fragile budget, it takes a severe toll on your mental health, physical well-being, and overall quality of life. Chronic financial stress has been linked to higher rates of depression, anxiety, cardiovascular problems, and other serious health conditions among seniors. The peace of mind that comes with knowing you have adequate income to meet your basic needs isn't a luxury. It's a fundamental component of health and dignity in retirement.